Welcome to the Hit Squad. I'm Chad Range alongside Jesse Finney. We have a great holiday week show for you. We're going to be talking about the state of the union when it comes to the fight game, not only MMA, but boxing as well. We're going to touch on that, as well as we got our predictions. A huge fight this weekend, starring really the big man of the UFC, Anderson Silva. He's been on top for a while, and it's going to be interesting to see him take on Chris Weidman.
It's going to be a good fight. I mean, if you look at the stylistically, this is a fight that if Chris Weidman actually stands right there in front of Anderson Silva, I think he can actually get picked apart and get hurt. If you look at what Chael Sonnen did to Chris Weidman, or Chael Sonnen did to Anderson Silva, I got to tell you something. Chris Weidman, pound for pound, might be a better wrestler. So we'll see. It's an interesting matchup any which way you look at it.
July 6th in Las Vegas. That'll be some fireworks flying after the holiday season. As well, we're going to be talking to Josh Gross, really ESPN's MMA insider. I'm ready to pick his brain for a couple of things. One, of course, I've been asking Roy Nelson. I want to get his thoughts and feelings on Roy. And, of course, he'll be touching on Anderson Silva and the big fight we got going on this weekend as well.
Josh is always a good insider because he's obviously the big dog with ESPN. He's always got a lot more insight than you and I have because he's on a nationwide circuit. He gets to get out there every day. He gets to mingle in the UFC on an everyday basis. He had some falling out, I know, before with Dana. So he's not afraid to ask.
Who hasn't had a good falling out? And we'll be talking about that as well.
Yeah, he always asks the tough questions, which I actually enjoy.
But you got to do that. That's in the media. I know you're not a media guy, but that's what you have to do.
I guess I'm a media guy.
You are now. You've sold out. So, and of course, we'll be taking a look at some local mixed martial arts as well. But first, we want to start with the State of the Union, and we want to know what you think. As always, you can hit us on hitsquad@101sports.com. That is our email. At Twitter, we're at HitSquad101ESPN. Get on there. Let us know your thoughts and feelings, where you plan on watching the fights, and maybe fights that you would like to see coming up. But first off, we're going to be picking, and we only pick the pay-per-view. We'll be getting to that shortly. And we also do the free on Fox. And you're leading now. You're looking good. But I want to address the State of the Union. And we're going to start with the mixed martial arts, kind of the big things. And really, we touched on this last week. I believe it's Tim Kennedy who came out and was upset about the pay he was getting from the UFC. Well, now, this week, Dana White says, you know what? We might just do away with fight bonuses. Do you see that happening?
I tell you what, I don't see it happening in the near future, but I got to tell you, if the guys keep complaining, those are called bonuses for a reason. They're bonuses. You signed the contract to fight for the UFC. You've signed what you thought was a great contract at the time. Honor your contract. It's the same thing that I've said in the past. You know, if we don't like what we're getting paid here at work with ESPN, we're not going to do it. So it's the same way as a fighter. If you're not liking what you don't get, if you don't getting paid enough, don't do it. But don't sign that contract and say you're going to do something and not do it. Now, I'll tell you something. Dana White says, listen, I'm going to go away and take away the bonuses. They're called bonuses for a reason. Those are called bonuses, not just that it's written into your contract. They didn't say, oh, we're going to go ahead and give you in your contract this X amount of dollar. No, these are unwritten bonuses that they just give out. So quit complaining. You know what? It'd be like you turn around and someone giving you an extra couple $1,000s and saying, oh, well, then you start complaining later on. It's not what you've done for me lately. And it's like, hey, listen, if you don't like it, don't do it. And it gets old, and that was my rant last week, obviously, you know. But at the same time, I mean,
it comes back around.
It comes back around. And you know what? Now Dana's saying, hey, listen, you know what? We might just do away with the bonuses. Do I see him actually doing it anytime soon? No, I don't. But I think it's a good threat for the guys.
And that was my next question. Do you think he's doing this just to kind of say, hey, shut up? I mean, Dana White doesn't mince words. And the beauty of it, if you read that article, and I can't say what he said for FCC reasons, but basically he said, Tim Kennedy. Who's Tim Kennedy? Start putting people in the venues, start being a big name, and then you'll get your big money.
I agree with Dana 110%. I really do. And
that was paraphrasing because there is a few.
No, and also something like this, Tim Kennedy did back off his comments and say, hey, you guys took this out of content. I mean, I'm not really exactly.
The media got him.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we are again. Absolutely. But yeah, well, he will be fighting at UFC 162. It'll be interesting to see. And just kind of still touching on those bonuses, I know locally, Justin Lawrence picked up a very nice payday. And if you're a listener of the show, you know that it's not like those are $5,000 bonuses.
Right.
They're
They're upwards of $75,000 to $100,000 sometimes as a knockout of the night, submission of the night, fight of the night. So fight of the night, you're getting $75,000 and $75,000. That's $150,000. They're called bonuses for a reason.
And
they gave them out. So you got to look at it like that. I'll also tell you that Bobby Volker of the UFC went and fought Patrick Cote up in Canada. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because everyone's always dogging on the UFC. He got a nice hefty payday on the fight. Now, they turned around, he lost the fight, so he didn't get his win bonus, but the UFC personally thought he won the fight, turns around, and about 3 weeks later, a nice FedEx package comes, and it's a nice big check. Now, it wasn't a full win bonus, but it was, hey,
anything's
it's an
appreciated.
Exactly. We're not talking $4,000 or $5,000. We're talking a decent payday just to say, hey, thank you. And we actually thought that you won the fight, but at the same time, you're not going to go and get your win bonus because that's exactly what it is. It didn't happen. But here's a nice big bonus for you.
Absolutely, and that all makes sense. Just even still kind of harping on it, maybe beating a dead horse here, but Mr. Healy.
Right.
$23,000 basically for him to show up. Now, he lost his bonuses because we've discussed it. But
smoking weed.
He walked away with, I think it was about $100,000 in bonuses.
I actually thought it was like $125,000.
Yeah,
it was like and that's a guy that's grinded in the sport. He's had 30, 40 professional fights and then goes out and smokes a little weed and says, you know what, I didn't get, because he tested positive, didn't get his win bonus, then turned around, didn't get his fight of the night bonus. So that's a guy, and goes out and just ruins everything for himself.
But that's a good example of how hefty those bonuses can be. It'll be interesting to see as time tells, and you said it probably won't happen overnight, and it could be Dana just being Dana saying, hey, shut up. I don't want to hear about you guys.
I don't blame him. I really don't. If you don't like it, don't do it.
And getting badgered through the media. So that's a little bit into the State of the Union. We're going to address some other big topics. One of them, Anthony Pettis, suffers a knee injury, and that's going to force him out of his August 3rd featherweight title bout championship fight against Jose Aldo. That was slated to be in Rio de Janeiro. Obviously, that's upsetting. Pettis, they were talking about him being fighter of the year.
Well, and Pettis has had a tough streak, man. He went out and he took a fight with it was Clay Guida. He goes out and fights Clay Guida. No matter what, he had the next title shot in line. He goes out and says, you know what? Hey, I want to fight for the fans because this is what I need to do. He goes out and he fights Clay Guida, which is a very bad fight for him because Guida's a straight wrestler. It's going to lay on top of him. He goes out and he loses. So he loses his title shot. Now he goes out and he's supposed to fight Jose Aldo, and then he hurts his knee. But hey, you know what? Welcome to the fight game. And it's tough when you're making a paycheck like that just to go out and fight.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often, especially in this sport. It does happen, but with all the injuries, especially, when you saw, and I know the NFL is a big contact sport, but those guys go down all the time. It does, it happens.
Injuries happen, man. And you know what? This is what a lot of people don't understand. Everyone hears about the injuries and the punishment and this and that. Actually, most of the time when the injuries do happen, it's happening in training.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really not the fight as much as it's the training that goes into it. Because every day you're talking, upwards of 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day of training, 2 a day or 3 a day practices.
It's interesting.
Body wears down. Body wears down.
Absolutely. But fight we are looking forward to, Glover Teixeira, Ryan Bader, set for September 4th. Light heavyweight division, boy, that division is stacked.
It is stacked. And there's a lot of other great fights coming up. And I got to tell you something, Glover Teixeira is one of the top. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been on this bandwagon.
On that bandwagon.
Same as Chris Weidman's. He's one of the best guys out there that no one knows about. Glover Teixeira should have been in the UFC a long time ago, had some visa issues, and now he's in to stay. And I got to tell you, Ryan Bader's got his work cut out for him. But Ryan Bader's also an All-American Division I wrestler as well. So, you can never count a guy like that out. But we'll see. It's an interesting time with the UFC.
New York not going to vote on legalizing MMA. They are the last state to do it. And one of the reasons the opponents say it promotes and glamorizes violence. I'm shocked still by this.
Money.
Yep, that's what
it all comes down to money.
I
won't even get into that.
You're not going to touch.
I don't want to get whacked when I'm in New Jersey.
I hear you. Getting popped. Real quickly, the final thing we're going to touch about State of the Union. Well, actually, I have 2 more things. We got to make it quick. Riddick Bowe. You want to talk about? He got in. 45 years old.
You talk about being on top and going on bottom.
He made his MMA debut, and it was not a good-looking sight. Riddick Bowe got made short work of.
Have you been able to find out what he got paid for that?
I mean, do you think that's what it is? Is it not just him wanting to wonder if I could do it, or and that was really my question. How tough is it? It's probably obviously.
It's a complete. It's like playing tennis and baseball. It's just because it's two different
just
sports.
because you hit a ball doesn't mean you
right.
Can,
you can go out and you can punch a little bit better than a normal guy, but the footwork, your footwork is completely different. Everything is different. So I mean, it's in boxing you want to stay flat-footed. You want to sit down, box, punch. In wrestling or in MMA, you gotta stay lighter on your feet. I mean, it's two different sports. Completely two different sports. I'm a boxing fan. I'm a bigger MMA fan, obviously, but at the same time, it's completely two different sports.
Interesting to see that, absolutely. And the final thing I want to touch on here is Floyd Mayweather. He said he might not be done boxing when his contract expires. I think he has like 6 more fights on that contract, said he might be done. My question to you is, he's undefeated. There's only been 5 boxers that have ever retired undefeated. Is he maybe hanging on too long, and that could hurt him?
Well, I tell you
and
what.
And if he doesn't fight Pacquiao, does it even matter at this point?
I don't necessarily. I think Floyd deserved more money with Pacquiao than what Pacquiao was won a 50-50 split. I mean, I do think that Floyd is a bigger draw at the time. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, he's a superstar, man.
Yeah,
he's a superstar. Does it hurt him? No, I really don't think it really does. I think he can actually. In the last year, I've been more impressed with Mayweather stepping up and fighting the better opponents. He's taking some dangerous fights. I mean, some guys that can punch, and that's what no one's going to outbox him. That's the bottom line. Yeah. No one's going to outbox the man, but you know what? Anybody can go out and catch him with one shot. And he's fighting guys that have one-punch power right now.
So it should be interesting. Well, we got those stories and much, much more coming up on 101sports.com.